The American Transcendentalism is a philosophical movement that started in the 19th century in northeastern United States. Even though the movement was somewhat influenced by Romanticism in Europe, it still represented a bold attempt by American thinkers to break away from traditional European thought and religious doctrine. The Transcendentalists believed in the goodness of both man and nature, and the importance of man to have a direct relationship with the divine. They believed that man was at his best when he was independent and self-reliant. That's how healthy communities can be formed. The Transcendentalist movement included some of the greatest early American thinkers and poets, like Henry David Thoreau, Margaret Fuller, and Jones Very, to name a few. Each member of the movement was a pioneer thinker and philosopher in his or her own right. Henry David Thoreau, for instance, rebelled against city life and went to live in a cabin by Walden Pond. Here is an excerpt from his book, Walden, in which he describes why he made such a transition.
We must learn to reawaken and keep ourselves awake, not by mechanical aids, but by an infinite expectation of the dawn, which does not forsake us in our soundest sleep. I know of no more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of man to elevate his life by a conscious endeavor. It is something to be able to paint a particular picture or to carve a statue and so to make a few objects beautiful. But it is far more glorious to carve and paint the very atmosphere medium through which we look, which morally we can do. To affect the quality of the day, that is the highest of arts. Every man is tasked to make his life, even in its details, worthy of contemplation, of his most elevated and critical hour. If we refused, or rather used up such paltry information as we get, the oracles would distinctly inform us how this must be done. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I wish to practice resignation, unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not life, to cut up roads while and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms, and if it proved to be mean, why then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it, and publish its meanness to the world, or if it were sublime, to know it by experience, and be able to give a true account of it in my next excursion. For most men, it appears to me, are in a strained uncertainty about it, whether it is of the devil or of God, and have somewhat hastily concluded that it is the chief end of man here to glorify God and enjoy Him forever.
Margaret Fuller was an American journalist and social reformer. Her book, Women in the 19th Century, is considered the first major feminist work in the United States. By the time she was in her 30s, she was recognized as the best-read woman in New England, and was the first woman to be allowed to use the library at Harvard College. A year later, she was sent to Europe by the New York Tribune as its first female correspondent. Fuller was an advocate of women's rights, particularly women's education and the right to employment. She also encouraged prison reform and the emancipation of the slaves.
It is man's fault that there ever were Aspasia and Ninans. These exquisite forms were intended for the shrines of virtue. Neither need men fear to lose their domestic deities. Woman is born for love, and it is impossible to turn her from seeking it. Men should deserve her love as an inheritance rather than seize and guard it like a prey. Were they noble, they would strive rather not to be loved too much, and to turn her from idolatry to the true, the only love. Then, children of one Father, they could not err nor misconceive one another. Society is now so complex that it is no longer possible to educate woman merely as woman. The tasks which come to her hand are so various, and so large a proportion of women are thrown entirely upon their own resources. I admit that this is not their state of perfect development, but it seems as if Heaven, having so long issued its edict in poetry and religion without securing intelligent obedience, now commanded the world in prose to take a high and rational view. The lesson reads to me thus: Sex, like rank, wealth, beauty, or talent, is but an accident of birth. As you would not educate a soul to be an aristocrat, so do not to be a woman. A general regard to her usual sphere is dictated in the economy of nature. You need never enforce these provisions rigorously. Achilles had long plied the distaff as a princess, yet at first sight of a sword he seized it. So with woman, 1 hour of love would teach her more of her proper relations than all your formulas and conventions. Express your views, men, of what you seek in women. Thus best do you give them laws. Learn, women, what you should demand of men. Thus only can they become themselves. Turn both from the contemplation of what is merely phenomenal in your existence to your permanent life as souls.
The founding father of the movement was Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson was born in Boston, Massachusetts, and developed a passion for writing and poetry since he was a boy in school. After graduating Harvard, he helped his brother establish a young women's school at their mother's house. He later became schoolmaster and at the same time ministered at the church. He remained busy teaching for some time, but after the death of his wife Ellen, who was only 20 when she passed away, he was deeply distressed and decided to take a trip to Europe. While in Europe, he met William Wordsworth and Thomas Carlyle. Carlyle had a particularly strong influence on Emerson's ideas, and after returning to America, Emerson began to write and lecture extensively about nature and the power of the individual. Soon after his famous essay Nature was published, a group of New England thinkers got together and formed the Transcendentalist Club and started the publication of their journal, The Dial.
Emerson was a prophet. Emerson was a prophet. Here is the real secret of Emerson's work. He stands still, he listens to his heart, and he writes as he listens.
At that time, people were thinking, and still do, that there's only a few divine souls on this planet. And he said, absolutely not. We are all divine.
I must be myself. I cannot break myself any longer for you, or you. If you can love me for what I am, we shall be the happier. If you cannot, I will still seek to deserve that you should. I will not hide my tastes or aversions. I will so trust that what is deep is holy, that I will do strongly before the sun and moon whatever inly rejoices me and the heart appoints. If you are noble, I will love you. If you are not, I will not hurt you and myself by hypocritical attentions. If you are true, but not in the same truth with me, cleave to your companions. I will seek my own. I do this not selfishly, but humbly and truly. It is alike your interest and mine and all men's, however long we have dwelt in lies, to live in truth. It is alike in your interest and mine and all men's, however long we have dwelt in lies, to live in truth. Does this sound harsh today? You will soon love what is dictated by your nature as well as mine, and if we follow the truth, it will bring us out safe at last. But so you may give these friends pain. Yes, but I cannot sell my liberty and my power to save their sensibility. Besides, all persons have their moments of reason when they look out into the region of absolute truth. Then will they justify me and do the same thing.